My name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is Holy Microcosm. Today we're going to talk about the 𝐶 realm, one of my favorite realms to think about and consider. What is all this quantum information in this modern age? Quantum computing, quantum entanglement, quantum superposition, quantum jumping. Like, whew, how many words can you tangle up with quantum? A bunch. So let's talk for a minute about the 𝐶 microcosmic realm. And I'm going to give you a practice today that Heather practiced yesterday with a stranger in a cafe, and that I practice in this life, and I practice in a past life in which my former dharma of quantum alteration was based on in 4th century Egypt. And it is a quantum alteration practice. But before we get into the practice, let's talk a little bit about this realm, the quantum realm, the 𝐶, the microcosmic. In our reality, you have only ever looked upon with your eyes, one way to say it, whether in a mirror, whether a photo, whether your Instagram feed as you doom scroll, whether as you look upon the world, you have only ever looked at atoms. Everything is comprised of atoms. Atoms are made of subatomic particles. As we get into the 𝐶 quantum realm, subatomic particles are made out of 3 quarks. They have different spins. And so I'm talking about things that are very, very small. And all of that smallness that I mentioned, atoms, subatomic particles, quarks, are made out of 99.99999, there's a long string of nines, percent emptiness. So if we round up, everything you've ever seen is empty. What? Come again? Say it again. Are you sure you're here? Are you sure you exist? Are you sure this is reality? One of the forefathers of quantum mechanics, Niels Bohr, has famously said, if quantum mechanics has not shocked you, you have not understood it. And one of the reasons I'd venture to guess such a wise knower of this topic and forefather of this topic would say such a thing is based on the double slit experiment. In the double split experiment, there was an experiment done in which there was a plate that had 2 slits that were put in it, which is where the term double slit comes from. And there was a particle gun that was shooting particles, I believe it was photons, particles of light, but it was shooting photons through the double slit. And all physicists everywhere would agree that the photons will go through the double slits, and it had this paper behind this plate with the double slits, and it had a paper to record where the particles would land on the paper. And every physicist would agree that obviously this particle shooter, it's not going to be able to get through the solid parts of the plate. It will go through the double slits. And if I look at the paper back of this plate with the double slits, I'm going to see 2 lines of dots where the particles were able to make it through this plate. Now, what they came to learn through the double slit experiment is one of those things that should profoundly shock you, because what they learned is that the particles, the atoms, behave as waves of probability when a conscious observer, a 2-legged, is not present with the experiment. What does that mean? What did Heather just say? What that means is that if I were conducting this experiment and I were to leave the room, the particles or photons being shot through the double slit appeared on the backdrop paper as waves. Instead of going through in 2 lines, they appeared as if they were everywhere. But if I was present, watching and observing the experiment, they would go through 2 lines. What does this tell us? What does the double slit experiment tell us? Well, the reason I love quantum mechanics is I find it to be the bridge between science and divinity, science and spirit. I believe that there is a science to God. There is a science to this divinity. I believe we're talking about the same thing and we're using different terms and often getting on our high horses about the terms we're using, you know? I think all names for divinity are valid, and I think energy is an equally valid name, or atoms. And so, teach their own. The reason this is so mind-boggling is that it implies that a rock is a wave in an ocean. If you're a physicist, or as a physicist, you go, a rock is not a wave in an ocean. A rock is a rock. A rock is always a rock. A particle is not a wave. A particle is always a particle. It is this microcosmic atom that we're talking about. It is like this. It doesn't operate It cannot have multi-locality. It can't be in multiple space-time locations. The fact is that it does. It has multiple space-time locations of probability, and it collapses into a space-time location based on the conscious observer being present in the room, which means that you swim in a sea of emptiness, you swim in a sea of probability every day of your existence, and you, the conscious observer, I, the conscious observer, us, the conscious observers, are collapsing these waves of probability into particles before our very eyes, including the phone I'm staring at to make this video for you, the painting behind me, the outfit I'm wearing. I have made these particles through my consciousness. What? Science doesn't usually like answers like that. Like, oh, wait a minute now. Where is the mind? Is it the brain? We can't, it gets difficult. It gets difficult and tricky to stick into the very static nature we often rule as the foundation of our physics and our science, even though it's theory. It's as theoretical as any religion or spirituality. Science is theory. You know, we kind of need to get off our high horse that it is the truth, the way, and the light. Science has yet to prove to me that this is not a dream, that this is not a simulation, that this is not binary or, you know, so it's like, okay, we don't know that science is the truth. We just know that it has a penchant for consistency in its studies when we test certain things, which makes it seem like the truth. Truly, it's theory. And as we get into the 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐿, we start to see things that it's like, what? So the first thing I want to offer is this concept around an atom or a particle or a subatomic particle or a quark being made of emptiness, of you and I being made of emptiness. Now, the only thing large enough to hold everythingness, which this universe seems to be filled to the brim with, can we just agree it's got a lot of stuff, that the only thing large enough to hold everythingness is nothingness, is emptiness. It's the only slate big enough, you know what I mean? And makes sense, but also what? We have emptiness, nothingness, reflecting an infinite number of everythingness. Look at all the colors present on your screen right now, just watching this video. What? And it's emptiness that's reflecting it. Now, I just wrote a class, Holy Light and Holy Shadow. It's Be the Answer. I'll be teaching it this summer, June and July. It is on the foundations of shamanism. I've trained with many shamans. The primary shaman I've trained with is 𝐼𝐸_LIGHTWALKER. And you can go to Amazon and look up 𝐼𝐸_LIGHTWALKER. He has a lot of books that are available that I'd highly recommend. And he's been a tremendous, tremendous light in my life of awareness. And the third class that I'm going to do in Be the Answer, the Foundations of Shamanism class that I wrote as a result of having studied with Lightwalker. He's versed in international shamanism and globally how shamans practice what they practice. And I'm blessed to be in one of his upcoming books, which is an anthology of shamans and their practices. I'm offering this class this summer, which is going to discuss Holy Light in the first week, Holy Shadow in the second, and the third week is going to be about Holy Microcosm. Because a lot of two-leggeds in the modern age, I'm hearing often, are like, why is the world like this? Why is this happening? I'm going to sit with people. I have this tendency where strangers just talk to me a bunch, and just like writing class, and that happened yesterday. I was in a cafe and had a 2-hour conversation with a complete stranger. This is a lovely soul. And it was such a lovely divine appointment, no doubt. And in these interactions, often the question is like, why is it like this? Why, you know? And so in Holy Shadow, I talk a bit about the virtue of the unknown, the virtue of the trial tribulation to give you opportunity to express your evolution and the content of your character. How contrast for an eternal being, because everything's made out of energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Therefore, scientifically, there is eternality present. Everything is made out of energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. That's eternality. There is, I believe, a spiritual counterpart to that scientific communication. And that's why I believe science and spirit are kind of the same thing. They're just echoes in the chamber, if you will. And spirit and soul are often described, or divinity, as having an eternality. No beginning, no end. It's always been around. It always will be. And I think that they are equivalents, you know. With eternality, nothing is threatening. Nothing is threatening. Nothing is threatening. Pandemics, fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, pick any threat. People, you know, who are you threatened by? A lot of people are choosing people that they don't engage with in their personal life to be threatened by. I'm so threatened, blah, blah, blah. Okay. There's no threat. We have eternality. all time. Time is an illusion. There's only ever been now. We have all of now to forever express anything and everythingness in the nothingness. So no problem. We can choose to collapse the waves of probability into something different if we don't like the outpicturing that our consciousness has rooted into focusing on. A common root focus can be that the earth is being destroyed. We also have ample opportunity with every breath to conceive of and hold the earth as healed, whole, strengthened. I often picture her busting through sidewalks, claiming back the day. Take it, earth. I send her a lot of energy. I do not believe in a destroyed earth, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. If we destroyed this planet, another would birth forth, because energy will always be around. And so the question I'm often asking myself is, am I getting really attached to what I'm looking at? Am I getting attached? Am I getting attached to the picture that is present before me? One of the first things I can do is remember that it's empty. If I ever have to do a gross thing, and I've had to do many of them, whether that's engaging with something that's dead, which I have to do a lot because death is my main teacher, or, clean up something that's disgusting, or assist coworkers to not have to clean up something disgusting, or whatever, to do the dirty work of life, I hold awareness, emptiness. It's not this gross thing. It's just emptiness. It's emptiness engaging with emptiness. Fun. You know what I mean? Lots of air in the emptiness. You don't have to worry about it. And it's aided me to do a lot of gross things. I have not, I've had to take half of a bird's face and blood and feathers and scrub it up. And as a bird woman, not my favorite activity in this lifetime. And it's like, okay, my emptiness is touching this emptiness, playing death and life in a room together, and it helps me to not be in such an attached state of the way I presently collapse the particles in front of my face. And so that's a practice I give in many of my classes, is to get honest. And in order to get honest, one of the things you would do is give yourself a practice for 30 days throughout every day. Emptiness. As I'm judging some driver for going too slow, which is a common foolish practice of others, because the universe has it all fast and slow. It's a duality. I spent this period where I would just be like, emptiness. This slow person is made of emptiness, and it's a delusion. Energy moves. Everything's made of energy, Heather. Let's calm down. Emptiness. If somebody is saying something that I find to be dismissive and disrespectful, interesting. Emptiness is spilling forth words of emptiness into the emptiness. Let me not allow myself to be such a being that has to hold whatever others are doing. I don't have to be that involved in all the drama, right? And so we can have an emptiness practice where we allow our consciousness to get honest with the truth of what is occurring. Every day that you've ever existed has been full of emptiness all the way to the brim. Fun. How meaningful. What meaning are you assigning to that emptiness? Another practice is to do the practice of quantum alteration. Quantum alteration is where you might close your eyes to the prize of the creation you have made in the paradigm thus far with your own mind and considerations and consciousness, as you've been telling waves of probability to collapse before you in all time that you've been expressed as a consciousness. And so you just close your eyes to allow everything in the room, everything in your life to become waves of probability. I am not a conscious observer in this moment. My eyes are closed. And as my eyes are closed, I recognize that those atoms that were behaving as particles or as rocks have not become this static, stuck thing. And they have opened into an ocean and a wave of probability. And now this situation, circumstance, ill health, dis-ease, I allow to open up into the breath of an ocean of possibility, and I release from the dream the dis-ease, the discomfort in the body, the trial and tribulation with this two-legged, this toxic behavior globally where we disrespect Pachamama and throw trash on her belly while she gives us every nutrient, grace, and a place to stand in space throughout our entire lifetime, or whatever it is. And I collapse those waves of probability back into the particles of the existence I now choose to stare upon, and I release it. And I know that it is done. I have knocked and the door will open. It's as if I've ordered food and it is to be delivered. You can go to rarebirdmedicine.com, click on the classes link, or click on book online to join us this summer, June and July, every Thursday night for Be the Answer. We'll study Holy Microcosm in the third week. Amun.